Today, we journey into the lore of Elden Ring's dragons. Let's start the story. A land shaped by wings and lightning. When you step into the lands between for the first time, you are stepping into a world built upon layers of history. The Erdtree looms golden in the distance. The churches tell tales of Queen Marika, and the ruins speak of wars both recent and ancient. But before any of that, before the Golden Order, before the human demigods, before the Erdtree itself cast its first glow, there was something else ruling this land. Something far older, far more powerful, and far more terrifying. There were dragons, but not just any dragons. These were not the scaled beasts you might find in other fantasies, hoarding gold in mountain caves. These were ancient dragons, four-winged, four-legged titans with bodies of living stone, capable of wielding red lightning and twisting time itself. They were gods in their own right, serving an outer god that has since fled the world, leaving behind only echoes of their former glory. The story of Elden Ring's dragons is the story of a fallen dynasty. It is a tale of betrayal, war, adaptation, and ultimately, tragedy. It spans from the prehistoric age before the Erdtree to the rotting fields of Caelid, from the time-lost ruins of Farum Azula to the frozen peaks of the mountaintops. And at its heart lies a single, haunting question. What happens to gods when their god abandons them? Let us journey back before the Erdtree, back before Marika, back to an age when the sky belonged to the dragons, and the ground trembled beneath their wings. Part 1. The Age Before the Erdtree, the Reign of the Ancient Dragons. The first Elden Lord. To understand the dragons, you must first understand the title that defines them, Elden Lord. When we play Elden Ring, we are told that Godfrey was the first Elden Lord. The game's items call him that. The history books of the Golden Order record him as such. And yet, if you dig deeper, if you read the item descriptions found in the farthest reaches of the world, you will discover a truth that rewrites everything. There was an Elden Lord before Godfrey. His name was Dragon Lord Placidusax. The remembrance of the Dragon Lord tells us. The Dragon Lord whose seat lies at the heart of the storm beyond time is said to have been Elden Lord in the age before the Erdtree. Once his god was fled, the Lord continued to await its return. Think about the weight of that statement. Placidusax was Elden Lord in an age so distant that the Erdtree, the symbol of all order and civilization in the current world, did not yet exist. He ruled from the royal city of crumbling Farum Azula, a floating mausoleum caught in an eternal storm, existing outside the flow of time itself. And he did not rule alone. He served a god, an unnamed outer god of the dragons, distinct from the greater will that would later claim dominion over the lands between. This dragon god held sway over the land, with Placidusax as its consort and champion. Together, they represented an order older than anything the Golden Order could comprehend. The nature of ancient dragons. What made the ancient dragons so terrifying was not just their size, though Placidusax, with his four heads and massive wingspan, was certainly imposing. It was their very composition. The ancient dragons had bodies made of gravel stone, a material described as sharp, pointed rock imbued with primordial gold. These stone scales granted them more than just physical protection. They allowed the dragons to manipulate time itself, making them functionally immortal. To fight an ancient dragon was to fight a creature that existed across multiple moments simultaneously, a being that could twist cause and effect like a weapon. Their signature ability was red lightning. Unlike the gold-tinged lightning that would later be adopted by the ancient dragon cult in Leyndell, the original red lightning was a weapon of pure, untamed power. They could manifest it as spears, glaives, and storms that rained destruction from the skies. This was not magic as the sorcerers of Raya Lucaria would come to understand it. This was something primal, an expression of their divine nature. In Farum Azula, the ancient dragons were served by the Beast Men, a race of bestial priests and warriors who worshipped their draconic masters. Statues found in the catacombs beneath the city depict ancient dragons surrounded by beastmen dressed as clergymen, highlighting their role as servants and devotees. The beastmen fought and died for their dragon lords, forming a wall of living rock to protect them. It was a golden age, literally. The bodies of the ancient dragons were imbued with gold, and when they died, their corpses would lose that golden tinge, their remains breaking apart and returning to simple rocks. Even in death, they were magnificent. The first tragedy, the god who fled. But all golden ages must end. For reasons the game never fully explains, the outer god of the dragons fled. Perhaps the greater will's influence was spreading. Perhaps there was a conflict among the outer gods themselves. Perhaps the dragon god simply abandoned its creations, moving on to some other realm or purpose. Whatever the reason, the result was catastrophic. Placidusax was left as a lord without a deity. His god was gone, and with it, the divine mandate that had justified his rule. The tattered and injured dragon lord retreated to the heart of the storm beyond time, deep within Farum Azula, where he lay down to wait. The Old Lord's talisman describes Farum Azula as having been slowly crumbling since time immemorial. This is the tragedy of Placidusax. He exists outside of time, eternally awaiting a return that may never come. His kingdom decays around him. His people scatter, and he remains, frozen in a moment of hope that has long since become despair. When you finally face him as the Tarnished, you see the evidence of his suffering. He is missing 2 of his 4 heads. His body is scarred and wounded. He is a shadow of the God King he once was. And yet, even in his diminished state, he fights with a fury born of millennia of waiting. He is not just defending himself, he is guarding his exalted remains, preserving what little dignity he has left. Placidusax represents the first act of the dragon's tragedy, abandonment. Part 2. The War with the Golden Order, When Gods Collide. The Rise of the Erdtree. While Placidusax waited in his timeless storm, the world moved on without him. The Greater Will, that mysterious outer god of order and grace, asserted its dominance over the lands between. It sent a golden star bearing a beast, the Elden beast, which would become the Elden Ring itself. And it chose an Empyrean named Marika to be its vessel and ruler. Marika became Queen Marika the Eternal. She took Godfrey as her consort, the first Elden Lord of the Erdtree's age. She removed the rune of death from the Elden Ring, granting immortality to herself and her subjects. She established the Golden Order, a new system of faith and law that would reshape the world. But the dragons still existed, and they were not pleased. Grandsax's assault on Leyndell. The conflict began with a single, devastating act of war. Ancient dragon Grandsax, a creature of immense size, perhaps the largest dragon ever to exist, descended upon the royal capital of Leyndell. The Bolt of Grandsax describes it, a great ancient dragon. Grandsax once rained calamity upon the royal capital, the only time in historical record that Leyndell's walls have fallen. Imagine the scene. The Golden City, proud and untouchable, suddenly faced with a foe that dwarfed its walls. Grandsax wielded a spear of lightning, striking with such force that the very foundations of Leyndell shook. For the first and only time in history, the walls fell. The dragons had declared war on the Erdtree. This was not a random act of violence. This was a calculated strike by a proud race that remembered a time when they ruled the world. They had lost their god, and now they saw another power, the Greater Will, Marika, the Erdtree, claiming dominion over lands that were once theirs. Grandsax's assault was a message. You are not the first to rule here, and you will not rule unchallenged. The War of the Ancient Dragons. The conflict that followed became known as the War of the Ancient Dragons. The forces of Leyndell, led by Godfrey and his son Godwyn, mobilized to defend their capital. The Tree Sentinels, guardians of the Erdtree, faced a terrifying realization. Their traditional armor and tactics were useless against beings who could twist time and summon lightning. They needed to adapt, and adapt they did. The malformed dragon armor describes an epiphany. The only way to protect the Erdtree was to become dragons themselves. Some of the Tree Sentinels began to emulate the ancient dragons, crafting weapons and shields from dragon claws, imbuing their equipment with red lightning. These became the Draconic Tree Sentinels, fearsome warriors who embodied the very enemies they fought. The war raged across the lands between. We don't know the full extent of the battles, but we know the key players. And we know the moment that changed everything. Godwyn the Golden and Fortisax. Ancient dragon Fortisax was described as the mightiest boulder stone, a warrior among dragons who wielded twin spears of red lightning. He was the sibling of Lanciax, another powerful ancient dragon. Together, They represented the elite of dragonkind. Fortisax faced Godwyn the Golden on the final battlefield of the war. This was not just a clash of warriors, it was a clash of ideologies. Godwyn, beloved prince of the Golden Order, beloved by his people, beloved by his mother Marika. Fortisax, champion of a dying race, fighting for the memory of a forgotten god. They fought to the last, and Godwyn won. But what happened next defied all expectation. Instead of killing his fallen foe, Godwyn extended his hand in friendship. He befriended Fortisax. This act of compassion ended the war and fundamentally altered the relationship between dragons and the Golden Order. The sword monument recording this event states, "The routing of the ancient dragons. Godwyn the Golden fought to the last and befriended the fallen foe." The ancient dragon cult. With the war over and Fortisax now allied with Godwyn, a new institution arose in Leyndell, the ancient dragon cult. This was a fascinating development. The worship of ancient dragons did not conflict with faith in the Erdtree because, as the Gravelstone seal explains, the dragon's lightning is imbued with gold, and as such the cult was permitted within Leyndell. The cultists studied the dragon's golden lightning incantations, learning to wield power that was once the exclusive domain of their former enemies. They wore robes adorned with dragon iconography and prayed to beings who had, just months or years earlier, been trying to destroy their city. But there was a secret within the cult. While the public-facing incantations used golden lightning, the red-hued incantations, the original, more powerful lightning of the ancient dragons, were taught in secrecy. Only those truly loved by the dragons could survive their lightning, and only the most trusted initiates learned the true nature of draconic power. Lanciax and Vike. Perhaps the most intriguing story from this period involves ancient dragon Lanciax, sister of Fortisax. According to the incantation Lanciax's glaive, Lanciax was the sister of Fortisax. It is said that she took the form of a human to commune with the knights as a priestess of the ancient dragon cult. This is remarkable. An ancient dragon, one of the most powerful beings in existence, willingly assumed mortal form to walk among humans and teach them. It speaks to a genuine desire for connection, for understanding between the two races. Lanciax had a favorite among the knights, Vike the Dragon Spear. Vike was a tarnished knight of the Round Table Hold, a contender to become Elden Lord. He was loved by Lanciax above all others, blessed with her favor, and taught the deepest secrets of dragon lightning. But Vike's story ends in tragedy. He was later scourged by the frenzied flame, succumbing to madness and becoming a husk of his former self. We find him in the Lord Contender's Evergale, a prisoner of his own failure. Lanciax, for her part, can still be found roaming near the Stormcaller Church in Altus Plateau, perhaps still searching for her beloved knight, or simply guarding the place where she once walked among humans. The aftermath of the Dragon War represents the second act of the dragon's tragedy, integration and dilution. The ancient dragons, once proud rulers of the world, became tolerated guests in a human city. Their worship was permitted, but only because their lightning happened to match the golden aesthetic of the Erdtree. They were accepted, but on human terms. Part 3. The Descendants, a race in decline. Grail, mother of all dragons. While the ancient dragons made their peace with Leyndell, another branch of dragonkind was struggling to survive in the wilder corners of the lands between. These were the mortal descendants of the ancient dragons, the dragons you encounter most frequently in the game. They lacked the stone scales of their ancestors, and with them, the immortality that those scales conferred. They were vulnerable to lightning rather than wielding it. They had only 2 legs, with their wings serving as front limbs, unlike the 4-legged ancient dragons. And they all traced their lineage back to one being, Grail. Grail's roar describes her. Grail was the mother of all dragons, dwarfing all who stood before her like a looming mountain. When you find Grail in Caelid, she is a sight to behold and a sight to pity. She lies motionless on the ground, too old and too massive to move. Her body is decaying, afflicted by the scarlet rot that plagues the region. She cannot fight back. She can only roar. Surrounding her are her children, smaller dragons who circle protectively, attacking any who approach. Killing them causes Grail to weaken, her health dropping with each child that falls. It is one of the most morally complex encounters in the game. These dragons are not attacking you unprovoked. They are defending their dying mother. And Greol herself poses no threat. The dragons who settled in northern Caelid with Greol became known as the Flying Dragons, distinguished by their red eyes. They chose this region, Greol's Dragon Barrow, to escape the Scarlet Rot, but ultimately, it caught up with them. Environmental adaptation. Without the stone scales that made their ancestors immortal, the mortal dragons had to adapt to survive. And adapt they did, in fascinating and often tragic ways. Different dragons inherited aspects of their environments, becoming reflections of the lands they inhabited. Borealis, the freezing fog, is found in the mountaintops of the giants. According to his lore, the ice dragons were lords of the mountaintops before the fire giants chased them from the peak. Borealis breathes clouds that inflict frostbite, his very presence chilling the air around him. Glintstone dragons like Smerag and Agila became imbued with magic. Smerag, a devourer of sorcerers, had his body gradually corrupted by the glintstones of those he ate. He now breathes glintstone comet shards and magic breath, a living fusion of dragon and sorcery. Agila's story is even more remarkable. He was bested by Runni the witch and subsequently swore a knightly oath to her dark moon. He serves her still, guarding the approach to the Cathedral of Manus Seals and wielding Agila's moonblade, a magical attack that inflicts frost. Decaying Xyx represents perhaps the most tragic adaptation. This dragon, also known as the Dragon Communion Revenger, did not forget his hatred even as he succumbed to the Scarlet Rot. His hatred was so strong that he endured the rot rather than fleeing. And now he breathes toxic clouds that inflict scarlet rot on all around him. His body is a walking plague, a monument to stubbornness and rage. These adaptations show the resilience of dragonkind. Stripped of their immortality, abandoned by their god, defeated in war, they nevertheless found ways to persist. They became creatures of ice and magic and rot, carving out niches in a world that had moved beyond them. But persistence came at a cost. They were no longer the majestic rulers of the sky. They were survivors, clinging to existence by any means necessary. Dragon Communion, the ultimate betrayal. If environmental adaptation was one response to the dragon's decline, Dragon Communion represented something far darker. Dragon Communion is a practice wherein humans consume the hearts of dragons to gain their power. The Dragon Heart item description explains that those who partake gain overwhelming strength, but at a terrible price. The Magma Breath description reveals that fate. Those who have performed the Dragon Communion will find their humanity slowly slipping away. Once they fully succumb to their fate, they are left no more than WYRMS that crawl the earth. These are the magma WYRMS you encounter throughout the game. Creatures like Makar and Theodorix who were once human, or in Theodorix's case, once a troll, but transformed into serpentine abominations through excessive consumption of dragon hearts. They are not true dragons. They are cursed to crawl the earth upon their bellies, pitiful imitations of the skyborn kin they sought to emulate. The Cathedral of Dragon Communion in Caelid stands as a monument to this practice. Its altar allows you to trade dragon hearts for powerful incantations, the very powers of the dragons you've slain. Every time you use it, you are participating in the extinction of a species. And yet, there is irony here. The dragons themselves may have encouraged this practice. According to one source, after Bayle's betrayal, Placidusax had his followers encourage warriors to partake in Dragon Communion specifically to hunt down Bayle's brood. The dragons, it seems, were willing to use humans as weapons against their own kind. This represents the third act of the dragon's tragedy, consumption. Their power is being literally eaten by humans, their hearts harvested for profit, their bodies reduced to currency. Part 4. The Shadow of Betrayal, Bayle the Dread. The Schism Among Dragons. To understand the deepest wound inflicted upon dragonkind, we must turn to the shadow of the Erdtree DLC and the story of Bayle the Dread. The Red Lightning Pot description contains a crucial piece of lore. The ancient dragons who betrayed their lord to side with the tyrant were known for wielding branched red lightning. This betrayal was led by Bayle. Bayle was an ancient dragon who, seeing Placidusax weakened and diminished after his god fled, chose to rebel. He gathered followers, dragons like Sinisax, and launched an attack on his former lord. The battle was cataclysmic. Placidusax, even in his weakened state, fought back with fury. He managed to inflict terrible wounds on Bayle, wounds that Bayle carries to this day. When you encounter Bayle in the Jagged Peak, you see the evidence: gruesome injuries, missing wings, a body scarred by ancient combat. But Bayle also wounded Placidusax severely. The Dragon Lord lost 2 of his 4 heads in the conflict, heads that now dangle from Bayle's neck as trophies. It was a mutual destruction, a civil war that left both sides maimed and broken. The traitor dragons, Bayle's followers, the dragons who betrayed their lord, were known for wielding branched red lightning, a corrupted version of the ancient dragon's power. Among them was ancient dragon Senisax, encountered before the summit of Jagged Peak. Senisax is particularly dangerous because of the bodies of water nearby, which conduct lightning and increase the damage against the tarnished, a fitting challenge for one of the traitors. The war between Placidusax loyalists and Bayle's rebels continued long after the initial betrayal. Placidusax, unable or unwilling to fight personally, sent his followers to hunt down the traitors. Chief among these hunters was ancient dragon Florisax, also known as the Dragon Communion Priestess. Florisax, the priestess who became human. Florisax's story is one of the most fascinating in the entire dragon lore. She was once an ancient dragon herself, but she sacrificed that form for feeble human flesh to aid in the destruction of Bayle the Dread. The priestess heart describes this transformation. The priestess was once an ancient dragon herself, but sacrificed that form for feeble flesh to aid in the destruction of Bayle the Dread. As a human, Florisax established herself at the grand altar of dragon communion near the foot of the Jagged Peak. Her mission: to entice young warriors to partake in dragon communion and send them to hunt down Bayle and his brood. She offers the tarnished a chance to kill Bayle and consume his heart, all on behalf of her absent Lord Placidusax. Each night, Florisax offers her sleep to Placidusax, connecting herself to her distant lord through dreams. She is susceptible to a sleep-inducing tonic, a vulnerability that reflects her devotion and her sacrifice. Florisax represents something new in dragonkind: adaptation through service. She gave up everything: her power, her form, her immortality, to serve a cause. She is both tragic and noble, a reminder that even in the depths of decline, dragons can still inspire loyalty and sacrifice. Part 5: Dragons and Death, the Lichdragon and Beyond. Fortisax's ultimate sacrifice. The story of Lichdragon Fortisax takes the dragon tragedy to its darkest conclusion. Remember Fortisax? The ancient dragon who fought Godwyn, befriended him, and helped establish the ancient dragon cult? His story did not end with the war. Years after their friendship began, something terrible happened to Godwyn. He was murdered, not in body, but in soul. The Knight of the Black Knives saw Godwyn's soul destroyed, making him the first of the demigods to die. But his body lived on, corrupted by the rune of death and transformed into the grotesque Prince of Death, spreading death blight throughout the lands between. Fortisax could not abandon his friend. The remembrance of the Lichdragon tells us, after Godwyn the Golden became the Prince of Death, the ancient dragon fought long and hard against the death within its companion. Alas, victory was never achieved, and its only reward was corruption. Fortisax plunged into Godwyn's dream, the nightmare of death blight and corruption, and fought. He fought against death itself, against the rune of death that had tainted his friend. He fought for what must have been an eternity, struggling to save the being who had shown him mercy and friendship. And he lost. The corruption seeped into him. He became the Lichdragon, a creature of death and lightning, his body twisted by the very force he sought to combat. When you face him in Godwyn's dream, you are not fighting the mighty Fortisax who wielded twin lightning spears in the war against Lendl. You are fighting a corrupted remnant, a dragon who sacrificed everything for friendship and received only damnation in return. Fortisax's story represents the fourth act of the dragon's tragedy: corruption through love. Ghost flame dragons. Death takes many forms in the lands between, and dragons have found a way to persist even beyond it. In the Land of Shadow, you can encounter ghost flame dragons, dragons that exist in a state between life and death, wielding the ghost flame associated with those who live in death. The suppressing pillar description explains, the very center of the lands between. All manners of death wash up here, only to be suppressed. The land of shadow seems to be a place where death collects, where things that should be gone continue to linger. The ghost flame dragons are evidence that dragons, even in death, retain enough power to persist. They are neither fully alive nor fully dead. They are somewhere in between, haunting the places where death accumulates. This is perhaps the strangest adaptation of all, surviving death itself. Part 6. The Living Dragons, a Bestiary of Survivors. As you journey through the lands between, you encounter dragons in various states of being. Each tells a story. Each represents a different response to the fall of their kind. Agheel, the territorial lord. Flying Dragon Agheel is likely the first dragon most players encounter. He resides in Agheel Lake in Limgrave, swooping down to torch wandering nobles who pray for death. The Agheel's flame description notes, the dead gazed at the skies over the lakes of Limgrave, praying that the dragon's flames would burn them to ash. Agheel seems relatively unchanged by the world's decay. He has claimed a territory and defends it fiercely. He is not corrupted, not dying, not serving any higher purpose. He simply exists, a remnant of a bygone age doing what dragons do. Grail, the Bridge Guardian. Flying Dragon Grail guards the bridge leading to the Bestial Sanctum in Caelid. Despite his proximity to the Scarlet Rod, he appears unaffected, a testament to either resilience or luck. He attacks any who try to cross, serving as an unexpected guardian for the beast clergyman beyond. Smerag, the Sorcerer Eater. Glintstone Dragon Smerag lurks near the Academy of Raya Lucaria, guarding an Academy Glintstone key. His body is corrupted by the glintstones of the sorcerers he devoured, making him a walking fusion of dragon and magic. Defeating him unlocks Smerag's Glintstone Breath, allowing players to breathe magical fire, a power literally eaten from his victims. Agila, the Knight of the Dark Moon. Glintstone Dragon Agila serves Runni the Witch, having been bested by her and sworn an oath to her Dark Moon. He first appears outside Runni's Rise, testing the Tarnished before retreating. He reappears at the Moonlight Altar, guarding the Cathedral of Manus Seals with deadly purpose. His signature move, Agila's Moonblade, conjures a blade of magic that inflicts frost, a technique learned from his service to the moon. Xyx, the Rotting Revenger. Decaying Xyx lies in Caelid, his body racked with scarlet rot. Unlike other dragons who fled the rot, Xyx stayed, his hatred for his enemies so strong that he endured the corruption. He now breathes rot instead of fire, a plague dragon in a plague land. Defeating him unlocks Xyx's Decay, an incantation that lets players breathe rot themselves, a fitting legacy for the Dragon Communion Revenger. Borealis, the Frozen Lord. Borealis, the freezing fog, haunts the mountaintops of the giants, emerging from thick mist on a frozen lake. He was once lord of these peaks before the fire giants drove his kind away. Now he remains, breathing frost and guarding a land that no longer belongs to him. Grail, the Dying Mother. And then there is Grail, immobile, dying, surrounded by her children who can only watch and wait. She is the source of all mortal dragons, the mother of a race in decline. Killing her is optional. The game never requires it, and many players choose to spare her, recognizing in her immobile form something sacred and sad. Grail represents the final act of the dragon's tragedy, extinction. The mother cannot move. The children cannot save her. And the Tarnished, that merciless hunter, can choose to end her line for nothing more than runes. Part 7. The Moral Choice, to slay or not to slay. This brings us to perhaps the most important question raised by the dragon lore. Should you kill them? The Polygon article on Elden Ring's dragons makes a compelling point. In Elden Ring, no dragon fights are mandatory, so if we're talking about lore, killing them becomes a moral choice. Will you kill this complex beast for personal gain? Death and brutality is everywhere in Elden Ring, but it's still a quandary, and a unique treatment of dragons that stands out. Dragons are not inherently bad in the lands between, but they are on defense. Think about that. Every dragon you fight, with the possible exception of the aggressive Agheel, is either defending territory, protecting offspring, or simply existing. They do not hunt you. They do not seek you out. You come to them, often for the explicit purpose of harvesting their hearts for power. Grail is the clearest example. She cannot fight. She cannot move. Killing her yields a massive number of runes, an easy power-up for players willing to strike down a defenseless creature. The game gives you this choice without judgment. It simply presents the situation and waits to see what you will do. The dragons of Elden Ring are not monsters to be slain. They are three-dimensional characters. They have history, motivation, tragedy. They have loved and lost. They have fought and failed. They have adapted and endured. They are not evil. They are simply old. Old and tired and dying in a world that has moved beyond them. When you fight Placidusax, you are not fighting a villain. You are fighting a god king who has waited eons for a god who will never return, disturbed in his final slumber by an intruder seeking power. When you fight Fortisax, you are not fighting a monster. You are fighting a loyal friend corrupted by his attempt to save someone he loved. When you fight Grail, you are not fighting at all. You are simply killing. And if you enjoy deep dives into gaming lore, mythology, and the stories behind the worlds you love, consider subscribing to Psych to Sleep. We explore the tales that keep you thinking and the ones that help you drift off. New journeys every day.